Here we go. And it is 28th of November, 2018. This is a session of the Fall 2018 Storytelling for Coaching and Counseling course. And Moushami, you're about to tell us about your study with Sue Jennings and neurodrama and play. Please go on.
Okay. So she's the one who is she started neurodramatic play, and she spent quite a lot of her time in Malaysia, in an island which was where there were a lot of Aboriginals. It was an island of Aboriginals, and her 3 kids grew up over there, and she did a lot of work with these people, and that's how she came to neurodramatic play. That's the background of it. And it's based on the concept that our primary learning is through our body. So all our learning, all our first stimuli is through the body. So our most basic need as a child is a need for attachment with our primary caregiver. So the first thing a mother actually does when she holds a baby is give a baby boundaries. That's the first boundary or the first sense of attachment that a child has. And according to her, that's really important for a child to have these boundaries of the sense of self. And this is something that this workshop that we did is actually a 10 days workshop, which was summarized into a 5 days workshop. So we had to jump on a few things. Another thing that she said is that this attachment that a child forms, if it's unhealthy for some reason, if it's not fully formed with the primary caregiver, or if it's not normal for some reason, like there's some kind of trauma attached to it, then neurodramatic play can really help in forming proper attachment and healing that trauma. And one play that we did, which everyone really loved, was we started with water, and then we started adding flour in it, maida. And at first it was, I think you've also done it, Reena, because Reena's also smiling. So at first, it's this watery liquid, and you keep, feeling it in your hands, and then you keep adding maida in it till it becomes this gooey substance, and it's got this sensation. And then you just keep on adding maida, keep on adding flour, till it becomes this clay-like consistency. And that's when you actually start making form with it. So at first, us facilitators did that. Like we did the whole process. And in the end, naturally, we started making stuff with it. Like one person made a Ganesha, one person made something else. And so then she said, like, from chaos to form, that at first it was also chaotic, but slowly, as you were touching the thing and, feeling the sensation, you actually normally went into form. And then we tried it on the children, and it was exactly the same. So at first they were literally like, like putting the gooey stuff on their hands and really trying it. Some kids didn't like it at first, so they thought it was icky. But then in our group, all the kids started joining in and really having fun. And as the thing became more clay-like, then they actually started making forms with it. So one started making a starfish, another one was making a tortoise, someone was making a doll, and it just came naturally. Like we never instructed them or did any guidance. It was just the children on their own, they did that. And during the course, we had a lot of free play. So we did a lot of activities. We did a lot of running around. We had tents where like children themselves made tents, and then they went inside. And every time they were coming out, Sue was calling out an animal, and they had to enact that animal. So that was something. And one thing I saw was that in free play also there is a form. So there is a beginning, there is a time when they're playing, and there is an ending. and quite often the ending is actually storytelling. So one thing that I learned over there is how tactile actually storytelling can be. So
Can you give us an example of how the play culminated in storytelling? But before you do that, can you possibly place your phone on a desk or table in front of you and stabilize it so you don't have to hold it? Is it possible?
no,
Okay.
it'll take some time then.
Okay. Well, go ahead. It's if you hold the phone in your hand, number one, you're not able to use that hand to
Yeah.
express,
Yeah.
and it is a little bit there's a little bit of movement. But okay,
Yeah.
if it's not practical to put it on a surface, go ahead.
Should I?
Let's see. Do you think you have something?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, so yes, can you give us an example of how the play developed into storytelling?
So in the beginning, we did a lot of running around and stuff. So like we had this thing where one of us facilitators had a kid behind us, and then we would walk, and when we turned around, the kid was supposed to freeze. And that kind of became like this fun thing where we were turning around, making faces, and the kid was also making faces, and we were giggling and stuff like that. So that was one of the games we actually played with them. And then, we did this tent thing. We gave them cloth, and then they made tents in the workshop area that we had. And it was quite imaginative, like the things we used to make the structures of the tent, to put the cloth on. And then they had this play where they kept on coming out as one kind of animal and pretending like to be that animal. And then we actually used scraps of cloth to dress them up as a character. And in the end, when all this was done, we all sat down with them. And usually what happened in these 5 sessions was that we sat back to back. So one kid with one facilitator back to back, and we put a shawl around us, like a shawl, a blanket. So it was really cozy and it was tactile. And then we had the storytelling to end the session. So, and I was thinking, even these tents, those are lovely places to have storytelling sessions one to one. It gives a different kind of atmosphere. So yeah, these are the things that we did over there.
So the storytelling was just about the figures that you had created in the clay?
The stories, yeah, some of them were. And a lot of them were mythological stories. So yeah. So like I did one on Ganesha and Kartik. And we even made this small theater, like where we had to make these characters and we had to enact the stories. So like what she said was, some children when they're doing drama, they feel shy to enact things themselves, but sometimes they're fine with doing it with characters, and that's a good start for actual drama to happen. So that's another thing we did.
So was there a discussion of what was the point of all this play activity? Or did she discuss that? I mean, I guess it's self-exploration, self-expression, but was there more discussion about why you were doing all this?
Yeah, the basic thing was that attachment, that a lot of kids have problems with attachment, and they have a lot of trauma. And these kinds of plays, like pre-play, that brings out the trauma, and also this attachment with the facilitators, that can also heal the trauma. But as I said, we kind of skimmed on the surface of everything. So we didn't really get into how to heal the trauma or how to detect it or anything like that. It was more like an introductory course. And now every week we are actually having these talk sessions where all of us students, we are meeting. And next year we're going to have the next workshop of this.
So
Yeah.
it's building up to a discussion of how this activity can help people deal with traumas, you think?
Yeah.
And just like this course, I'm sure it's also good for just general development.
Yes, yes. And for me, it was the fact that storytelling can also be tactile in the sense of putting a shawl around and sitting back to back and things like that. That was really nice for me. Like that was a different aspect that I learned. So that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Rena mentioned that the other day in, she called it sculpting work, where one player could sculpt another player, in a certain body position, or a group of people in a certain body position. It seems when you can actually see a physical manifestation of a character or of a situation, and if you can walk through it, it gives it a different sense of reality, which is very evocative, emotional, and it brings up thoughts and feelings if there's a three-dimensional representation of it. Good. Okay, so what next year? What is going to happen next year? She's going to come again, or?
Yes, yes. And we're actually going to go into more about a neurodramatic play. So this was more like an introduction course, and all of us had to actually write our experience down, all those who wanted to go further. And then she saw our report, and then now we are ready for the next level of it.
Mm-hmm. So, but by calling it neurodramatic, it's giving it a vibe of not just therapeutic, but scientific, medical, physiological, like the brain waves or something.
To learn about the parts of the brain.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot that. So we had these characters who were called amygdala and neurocortex and stuff like that. I forgot all three.
Mm-hmm.
And then each had like represented that part of the brain in a certain way. And then we actually got them to interact between them. And we formed a story and we told that to the children.
Mm-hmm. And the characters were different parts of the brain.
Yes, the three parts. I've forgotten the three parts. The one that's at the back, the neurocortex, and the other one.
One is like short-term memory. One is long-term memory. Is it like that?
No, I have it, but I have to look for it. One of them has the amygdala, which basically helps in mirroring things that we see outside.
Mm-hmm.
So the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and the neocortex. Mm-hmm. So the reptilian brain is about our basic functions. The mammalian brain is about feelings, emotions, and things like nurturing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the neocortex is a reflex, weighing options, like weighing which we deciding on things and things like that, and making decisions. So and there's this thing that we had learned, that the amygdala, it mirrors other people's emotions. So if you're smiling at me, my brain over there actually mirrors that without my even sensing it consciously. That's why we are happier around happier people, like because we mirror that facial expression. And and that's also how we form empathy and relate to other people.
I've heard the term mirror neurons.
Exactly.
This is mirror neurons?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the physiology of the brain, as well as the emotional side. Great. I think everybody is on mute, but if you'd like to make a comment or question, take yourself off mute and please make a comment or question. Anybody?
It is very interesting. Yeah, the step by step, all the brain's working functions are separated and then made to understand. So that so we learn something new also. and as well the tactile, the way of communication, and tactile brings the people closer, and the communication becomes more and more cohesive, and the people feel more closer, and then it makes the people to open communication. That's good. This is what I learned.
Mhm. Great. Okay, so now you you got a volunteer who let's see. You said that she's been talking to you, and she's not telling her life story in 10 minutes. She's telling it in such a way that it goes on and on and on and on. Right?
She,
So,
she's led a really rich life.
okay, so tell us, just start somewhere, jump in someplace, and give us a sense of what she's been through. And in terms of finding important points, we're always looking for what challenges have come up in her life, what are her special joys, what are her particular frustrations. Has she expressed that she feels incomplete in any way? Is she looking forward to something? Can you tell us anything about her from these points of view?
Well, she's really talented, and actually she lived in a her father was a agricultural research scholar, so she lived in this university environment in Australia, and she's the third of six kids. There were six daughters, and in the beginning she really had a really nice life, like she loved her life, and she was a really good student. But the problem was she was both good in science as well as she loved painting and art and all that. So she actually jumped through a lot of careers. Like she tried to learn a lot of things because she couldn't really make out which was her, calling. So she did. She started with jewelry designing.
Mm-hmm.
Then she went on to chemical engineering.
Mm.
Yeah. And then she did photography. Then she was a radio jockey for some time. And then she actually found her calling in making movies. So she's made a lot of documentaries on very interesting subjects. And she's traveled extensively. She was born in Australia and she grew up there. But then she actually sailed on a boat with a 70-year-old man who fell sick in the middle. So then she had to actually, she was only in her 20s at that time. She had to take the boat across a very dangerous reef area. And she managed. And she took care of this person also because he was really, really sick. And there was a dog also she had to take care of. And yeah, then she went to France. She did courses over there in filmmaking. She was really good at it. And then she had this really bad accident where she was stuck in a car for a very long time. They literally had to cut the car open to get her out. And I think one of her friends also died. So that really gave her a sense of claustrophobia. And because of that, she couldn't go back to go classes. She couldn't attend classes. And one of her sisters was actually in India. And that's how she came to India. And subsequently, she was doing this research on peacocks. And she heard that there are enlightened peacocks in Tiruvannamalai. And that's why she went there. And she got highly disappointed when she realized that peacocks were just ordinary peacocks. But she had this really life-changing experience in one of the caves of where the Maharishi was there before. And yeah, and then she came to Pondicherry.
Life-changing in what sense?
Um, she says it really transformed a lot of things in her, and she couldn't really express how, but she really felt like things were really flowing through her. That's how she expressed it. Even she couldn't tell me how it was life changing. But she felt like she was a different person after that. And yeah, she's done all sorts of things. She's done yoga, she's done Vipassana. Before this, she's been into Zen Buddhism. She's really been an explorer. That's one thing I see in her. And she loves the water. So once she came to Pondicherry and she met her now ex-husband, and they started a life over here together. And at the age of 45, she became pregnant. And she was totally like, it was a surprise because she thought she'll never have children. She'll always be her favorite aunt. But then she was pregnant and she realized she actually wants this child. So then she had Pia, her child. And in the middle, when Pia was 2 years old, they went back to Australia because they were a bit fed up with how things were working in Oroville. But then they came back and they've been here now for 7 years again. And she's really frustrated with things, how things are happening over here. In fact, her daughter has also been pulled out of school recently. We two were actually in it together. And right now she's questioning, like, sorry, and another thing I forgot to tell you is after coming over here, she discovered Watsu. Watsu is this practice that you do within water, where you take a person and you move them around in water, and you actually you can even put a nose clip and you can actually put them inside water, and get them flowing inside that. So she's a Watsu practitioner now, and she even teaches others. But now she's really frustrated with the things how things work over here or don't work over here. And she's in a crossroads again. She's wondering if she should take her daughter back to Australia where there won't be a problem with education. But like her daughter's she's going to become a teenager very soon, in a couple of months. So this might not be a good time to actually be shifting her. Yeah, so she's in a place where she doesn't really know where she's going now. And what I sense in her is this huge search all her life, that she's been searching for something which she doesn't seem to have found as yet. So
okay, well that's a very important and interesting theme, that she has been searching so many different places and so many different activities, and but you said it seemed like she had found her calling with directing documentary movies.
Yes, she did.
Is that continuing, or what's going on with that?
She stopped when she became a mother because she really wanted to give her time to that. And now she somehow feels she doesn't have the energy anymore. She's in her 50s. So, and she's having this thyroid problem also.
What problem?
Thyroid. She's having
thyroid.
Yeah. So she really doesn't feel that she has the energy, and she's also questioning whether she's in the right place right now. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned the word problem, that when she was young, did you say that she was good at so many different things that it was a problem, that because she didn't know what to do, or she did many different things? Okay, so that is a definite theme, because usually we feel that we want to settle down into something, right? We want to put down roots, either in a place or in a relationship or in a profession, and we don't want to be restlessly swept here and there, right? We usually want to at some point settle down.
Yeah.
The old cliche, I remember my mother telling me, okay, she said, Eric, according to the, like the standard system, in your 20s, you're supposed to figure out what you want to do. And you go to college and you get good at that, you get training in that. And certainly by the end of your 20s, you found what you're going to do, and then you get deeper into it. But of course, in today's world, many people, more and more people, are not settling into any particular profession. Or in the case of your client, he's especially she has this situation. And you say to her, even at times it's a little frustrating, or it's a little disturbing, or it's a little unsettling. She would like to settle.
Yeah.
So in terms of place, does it sound like she might be going back to Australia, especially for the school for the child?
Actually, Pia doesn't want to go back. Pia is really like the daughter wants to stay here. And what I'm telling her is that she had a huge problem with housing also. The place that she's staying in right now, she's never really made it her own place. So that's what I've like, because I know her on a personal level also. So I'm telling her to first find her own core, to make the house her own nest, and make it more like, her expression. And also she feels a bit like, that's why she thinks she's getting a thyroid problem, is she doesn't speak out anymore. Because in Oroville, everyone is very, because it's a small community, you try to be politically correct in many things because, you don't want to stir up people. So that's something I'm telling her, that you don't have to be that person. You can speak up. And if it's something that's really, that you feel that you need to speak about, this place needs people like that who speak for what's right.
So you're associating her thyroid difficulty with an emotional, psychological difficulty with speaking and expressing herself.
Yeah.
So there may or may not be a connection with that physiological symptom. Okay, so a healing or inspirational story for her, as you're well aware, will be a story that kind of documents and celebrates all of the wonderful things she's done, and looks forward to the next steps, and hopefully her getting a sense of peace and satisfaction about where she's going to live and what she's going to do. Right? Of course, we can't tell a client, we can't advise a client, what to do and where to go, but we can certainly, encourage them to explore, and then they have to find out for themselves. Does now some people would take a kind of a psychoanalytic approach and say, well, maybe she has some emotional problems that are preventing her from settling down and finding herself and committing to something. But does that seem to be a fruitful approach to encourage her to examine herself and to see if she's undermining or preventing herself? Do you think that's appropriate, or you think she just needs to be encouraged to find the next step?
I think she measures her happiness by achievement. That's something that she's done all her life, and she loves her daughter. I've seen that because I know her, as I said, personally. She needs to be happy with herself. That's my that's my feeling, that her search is actually within, and she doesn't want to face that. And
but you're saying, so you're feeling she's not happy with herself?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then she needs to explore. Why? To the extent that she's not happy with herself, why is she unhappy with herself? What's going on inside?
Because that's a feeling that I get, that it's all about achievement. She feels she needs to quantify whatever she's doing to feel good about herself. And, somewhere that's because she's not that kind of person. That's why she's so good at Watsu, because Watsu is something very instinctive. You really have to be one with the client to really make them flow in the water. So she has that part in her, which I think somewhere she doesn't realize, you don't need to achieve that. She has these qualities which make her a beautiful person, and she should just celebrate that. But I can't be didactic with her, so, and I don't know if I'm right also.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm feeling, but I don't know if that's the.
Well, you can talk with her and say, okay, you're going to continue your searching, but you can ask her if she feels she needs to do some kind of internal work or internal exploration to discover if she feels basically injured or abused or somehow uncentered internally, if she feels anything like that. Because if one does feel something like that, it doesn't matter where one goes, one will never be happy.
Yeah. There's one thing that she said which I found a bit significant. That is that when she went on that boat with this old man, her parents didn't stop her. And though she loves her parents and they love her and all that, but she finds it very surprising that they never even tried to stop her. So that's something that I think plays in her, that she was going on this yacht out to the sea, and how could her parents not stop her for that? So
and of course, she wouldn't have been happy if they would have stopped her also. But it sounds like she wanted them to express more concern.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so maybe she needs to get in touch with the injured child within her, or the child within her that feels neglected, and talk to that child and see what's up with that child, what that child wants. Does that child want? At least to understand how that child feels, and then ask the child, how can we improve the situation? Are her parents still alive?
No.
So she can't talk to her parents, but she could talk to imaginary representations of her parents, a la role playing, psychodrama. That might help.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned the metaphor of nest.
Yeah.
That you felt she was looking for a proper nest. Okay, so you might suggest that metaphor to her, but you and she need to keep in mind that there's both an external and an internal, both external and internal challenges here. The external challenge is to find a good nest physically, but the internal challenge is to explore her discomfort or ill ease within herself, if she agrees that she feels such a thing. Okay, anybody? Any questions, comments? Does any metaphors come to mind? Any suggestions for how her client can use story or metaphors to bring her situation into focus and give herself guidance or anything? Any thoughts of any type? Go ahead.
Yeah, it is interesting to totally the person keep on jumping from one habit or one learning, one achievement, next, and on. As you exactly pointed out, she is very much craving for that appreciation or acceptance whenever she achieves something. And also you said she found an ex-husband and she lives with the family and she loves the children. And at the same time, she didn't think of enjoying, availing, or being with the success of them. Perhaps the child education is one that she can give and she can become a good parent. This way she can think, and that area she misses. At the same time, what is drifting her is, I feel she is not accepting any uncomfortable situations. whenever a slight moment of discomfort, this Pondicherry, there are some slight discomfort, she is not able to accept it as such. Maybe, as you suggested, the child may be impaired with not accepting and making an immediate change. Perhaps she must be discussed and overcome this problem, accepting the situation and diverting with some other, or thinking of some other positive side of the issue. The issue is not accepting the the problem situations, and she can divert, or she can make it see the other side of the problem and think of the other goals which she can achieve for the sake of the children and husband and the family.
A thought like that, it's certainly interesting, and it may be valid, but you have to think twice before you mention that to a client, because it might hurt her feelings. She might disagree very strongly, and you don't really know for sure if that's really an issue. But I'm just saying you have to tread very lightly. And in terms of anytime you make judgments about someone and you judge that they're doing something in an unhealthy way, it's best to keep it to yourself and think about it for a long time before you discuss it with a client. It is true that your client has gone many places and tried many things, and a lot of that is wonderful.
Yeah.
And probably whatever peace and resolution she comes to eventually will incorporate all of the travels and adventures and learnings, and she'll put it all together. So nothing is wasted. Nothing is nothing is wrong. It's just that it hasn't been brought all together yet, probably. So that's another point of view, as opposed to what Bhavani Shankar is saying, is that she may have a basic resistance to facing challenges. So you can look at something from numerous points of view, but you want to make sure you don't make judgments, or if you do make a judgment, that you don't express it to the client in a way that's going to hurt her feelings or get her angry, get her defensive. You follow what I mean, everybody?
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable subject for her.
Yes, and a client has to come to a conclusion like that for herself.
Yeah.
Part of the craft of being a counselor is to kind of raise issues in a very soft way, and then it's up to the client to own something, or grasp onto something. The counselors, it's not the counselor's role to push interpretations like that. Anyone else?
So how can I put it across in a subtle way so that she starts thinking about stuff?
Put what across? Put it in your own words.
The fact that she's looking for something, and maybe that journey could be an internal journey also, whether and as you said, that all these pieces actually come together to form this whole, and she has to look for that whole. Without making her feel that that I'm trying to preach something to her.
Well, it's the question of is the solution inside or outside, and herself, and the answer is probably both. So you might just say that to her. You ask her if she you can discuss the pros and cons of moving back to Australia, the school, and so forth. And then also raise the issue of does she feel somehow blocked from settling and committing? If you can think of a way to ask her that, you might ask her that. Because you mentioned she does seem to feel some sort of frustration with herself, right?
Yes.
Okay, so ask her what's that frustration about, and could it be related to some sort of internal unresolved situation? Great work. So you've met with her, what, once or twice?
I meet her every day actually because of the school thing.
Ah.
But, yeah. But we had this long talk once where she talked about her life history.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we started in the evening, and yeah, it was pretty late when we finished. And we still had bits and pieces, which was.
Well, again, as you know, counseling is not about giving advice.
Yeah.
It's purely about being there so that the client can express and explore her own thoughts. But I think if you guide her in the sense of saying, okay, why don't you make a list of the pros and cons of doing this or that externally? And you can ask her, does she feel that she needs to do anything internally? Is she somehow, does she feel she's somehow, uncomfortable with something, or she's blocking herself from settling, or, try to say it in a way that she'll relate to it. Because it sounds like, she's thought about this herself, no doubt. I'm sure she has. Good. Okay, does anyone else want to, before we go on, do Moushami, or does anyone else want to say anything about this client and her story and the metaphors and the helping story that might come out of all this? Does anyone want to say anything? Okay, then let's go on. Does anyone else want to give us an update about your work with your client? Usha, have you found somebody? You're on mute. You have to come off mute.
Last time I told Eric about my story clients, but I could not find any metaphor to do the story.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You want to give us a very quick recap of the life story, and maybe we can come up with a metaphor on the spot?
Yeah, that my client's, my friend's brother, he wanted to he wanted to join army, but his parents did not allow him because his uncle was telling all about talking about the freedom fighters. So he wanted to join army, but his parents did not allow him. So he studied and he went abroad, and is a GM of some big company, and so many people are working under him, but he's married and got children, and he wants to come back and do something for the country. That is the thing. And he's that's the thing. Then, but I did not find any metaphor for that, Eric.
So where is he now?
He's abroad. He's planning to come back, and that's all.
So you've been talking with him by telephone?
Yes.
And he has a job lined up here?
Yes. Here, no. There.
But if he's coming back here, he's going to be able to work here, you think? He's comfortable with his employment situation here?
No, he's not comfortable, but he wants to come back. His wife also working there, but she doesn't want to come back, but he wants to come back.
And he wants to come back out of a sense of patriotism and
Yes.
love for India, and to do something for India. That is a. And do they have children?
Yeah, 2 children.
How old?
One is in 8th standard, one is in 10th standard.
And they're happy with their school there?
Yeah. They are very happy. They don't mind coming back and settling here, children.
They don't mind?
They don't mind. Because I think that friend's brother has told many stories about India, and they are very much want to do something for India only. Children also.
But most young people, the teenagers, if they like their school and their friends, they don't want to move. Yeah, I guess it depends how much they like their school. Are they in the USA?
No, they are in Gulf.
Oh, okay. So it depends if they like it.
Because after 10th, they have to come back here only. Gulf, there is not a good university, is there?
Well, I guess his first situation is that he has to work it out with his wife. Work out a compromise. What something that she can live with, something that he can live with. Unless they're going to separate and live apart, they don't want to separate and live apart, right? Bhavani Shankar lived apart from his family for many years, for a number of years. Right?
Yes.
In that case, it worked, but most couples don't want to do that. Well, the metaphor that I see is that there's a distance between him and India, and there's also a distance between him and his wife. So somehow he has to work out a compromise with his wife and bridge that distance, make a bridge in terms of making an agreement. Maybe 5 years from now we'll come back and do something, or even now we'll come back on vacations and do something. We'll begin an NGO. We'll begin a school. We'll begin to support a school. There are many ways that he can contribute to India without living here full time.
Yes.
If he finds a school or an organization that he likes, he can support it from a distance. So I would suggest a bridge between him and his wife. Mention that to him, and maybe a bridge between wherever he is and India, so that he can travel back and forth and send money back and forth, but that not necessarily that he has to move full time. And I guess an essential thing is his children. Do they want to move back to India? Are they happy with their school where it is? They have to take everyone's needs into account.
Yes.
But just his need to do something for India, you might remind him that that can be done in many different ways, not just living here full time. Or maybe work towards 5 years from now coming back. See if his wife will agree to something like that. Okay, so try that. If you talk with him again, see if he's interested in these sort of compromises, which can be represented visually and metaphorically as bridges connecting one place with another place. Okay. Anybody else have any other thoughts, suggestions? All right. Moshami, do you still hear us? You're on mute. You want to unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, what happened? We lost your picture.
I'm sorry, actually, I'm doing some work, but I'm listening to the thing.
Okay. Oh, you just turned off your picture on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. We all want to congratulate you that you got your Wi-Fi connected, and your picture and your sound is perfect.
Thank you.
So you are in good shape to do this kind of communication with people anywhere in the world. That's a big step anywhere, but especially in Auroville. I think it takes a lot of doing to get it done, and you finally got it done. So go ahead, you can turn off your video. We're not offended. The point is, it's your choice. Good. All right. Well, anyone else? Do you want to give us an update about what you're doing with a client, or shall we end the session a little bit early? Reena, Shankar, Bhavani Shankar, you still haven't found somebody. I'm telling you, find a relative or a friend or co-worker and say, I have I'm taking a course in life coaching, and I'd love to have an opportunity to coach you or to help you coach yourself. You'll learn techniques which will be useful for you and useful for you to use with other people. I'm sure you can find someone, but you have to ask around.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Reena or Shankar, do you want to tell us anything, or shall we say goodnight a little bit early?
So I gave suggestions to my friend. If you remember, last time I shared the first draft of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So she's working, and she'll, fine tune it, and maybe next week I'll be able to share the final story.
Okay, very good. Shankar, remind us of who you're working with.
Yeah, it's with my purchase manager, and I didn't see him for the past 1 week because he's gone all the way to Delhi for some purchase. So not having proper communication with him. Maybe he's coming next Monday. Maybe next Monday I can ask him to schedule some time, and after 8 o'clock or 9, after office hours, we can just sit and.
But remind us of the basic his basic story.
That's what he was. Since he's into purchase, there is more of inventory management, all those things which he is supposed to sit and update it in the software. So he's feeling uncomfortable because he is not a person who used to sit for a longer duration in a particular place or something. He needs to run, he needs to go out, and he needs to actually do it physically. And that was his problem, and when I asked him why it is like that, he was saying for the past 6-7 years he was doing the same work, and suddenly the organization wants him to sit and do the inventory calculations, all this. He's feeling a bit uncomfortable. So that's where, and I was actually speaking with him as to how his life was and how was his schooling and all those things. I was asking him, and even he was actually narrating all his personal journey as to how it was. But since there was a gap in between, maybe I was not able to continue properly. But sure, Monday I will catch him, and I will ask him how we can take it to the next level, and how he can help himself to get out of the problem, something like that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that his challenge now is to he must do what he's been assigned to do.
Yeah.
Because the company wants him to do that. They have a need for that at this time. And yet he would rather do something slightly different in the company.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of the walking on a tightrope, in the circus.
Yeah.
Someone who has to keep balance.
Yeah.
He has to do a good job with what he's been assigned to.
Yes.
And, show a positive spirit and a spirit of cooperation. And at the same time, he has to stick up for himself and, communicate to his company what he really wants to do and what he feels is best at.
Yes.
So the challenge is, how can he do both of these things?
Yeah.
Without falling, without offending people, and without betraying himself.
Yeah.
If he goes too far, in the direction of cooperating, he'll be frustrated and he'll feel lost.
Yeah.
But if he goes too far in the direction of asserting himself, he'll get fired, and or at least he'll create ill will with his company. So somehow he has to do both. He has to stand up for himself and express himself, but at the same time satisfy the company's needs in the short term.
Yeah. So another thing what I spoke with him is I just had a general interaction as to why he is having such a discomfort whenever it comes to systems, or whenever he needs to sit and work with the systems or software.
Mm-hmm.
So initially he was telling me like about 6-7 years he was just doing the inventory system, wherein he used to get command from his boss, who used to be in system all the time, but he used to go roam around and find out what is the mistake. So now what I have actually made him understand is, guided him is just to make him how important the software is, and how his work is getting even more easier and even more crispier than maintaining it in the paper, or having a manual writing or something like that. So for example, if he's having a particular component which is in box number A2.26 something, there's a box number. So if it is in the return paper or something, he needs to take each and every pages, find out where is the number, and then he needs to go ahead and get the box. But now once he types the number, or he just types the code, he just scans the code, he's able to get the box number. So it is actually making him to use his time even more efficiently and effectively. I told him all these things. I was able to see a smile in him, which actually made him even more happier, because I'm able to see that there's some positive change in him. And maybe from Monday, maybe I can start in a full swing, and I can maybe tell him a story as to how he can do it even more efficiently and effectively. There are lots of management techniques which can be taught to him, and then
Okay, well, certainly I don't understand all the details, but what I do understand is that he's uncomfortable. It's like he's wearing clothes that don't fit him properly. So to try that with a metaphor for him, that he's either his clothes are too tight, or they're too loose, or they're falling off, or there's something wrong with it. It's not a good fit.
Yeah.
So what does he need to do to metaphorically to get back into a comfortable set of clothing? Either it's a problem with the material, it's too hot, it's too scratchy, or it's too tight. Something's wrong. So he needs to put up with it to some degree, but also he needs to adjust it. So try to find out how he can adjust his ill-fitting clothing. Great. Okay. Shall we stop recording? Yes? Yes. Let's see. Stop recording.